Now, if you're on this channel at this point, I guess you know that the focus has really been Batman and especially the Arkham games, and that focus isn't going away. But for my own sake of variety and yours too, I do try to do some stuff to spice it up and cover some different things on the channel, especially because there's not unlimited Arkham content to make. I love the games, but I can't do it every single day. So when I made the piece, I guess, the response to the Batman versus Captain Marvel, and a ton of you liked it, I was actually kind of surprised. I was worried that really only people were only interested in Arkham, and I love it, but I was hoping that we could still cover some of this other stuff too. So that made me very happy. And I wanted to take a look today at another CBR.com article that's 5 Marvel villains Joker would team up with and 5 he would hate, and sort of break down my thoughts on each of these lists, these listings in a commentary response style like I did before. Now, I want to point out this time, by the way, in the video, and I said it in the comments last time, anytime we come across an article like this, I think it's important that we keep the conversation at least sort of between us. I mean, I think it should stay in the comments and over on Twitter at twitter.com/DegenerateJ. I don't think it should become something about witch hunting the article writer if we disagree with it. But I do want to point out some things I disagree with, some things I agree with, and why I feel the way I feel about a lot of these lists. And the first thing I think is important to note is whenever you're talking about these comic book characters, it's very easy to just be straightforward and say the Joker or the Batman or Spider-Man, whoever. The problem is there's so many different versions of a lot of these characters at this point, and so many of them are different. They fundamentally share the same DNA in a lot of ways, but let's look at the Joker just for example, since this article's about him. Scott Snyder's Joker from Death in the Family and Endgame is similar to, but very different from Alan Moore's Joker in The Killing Joke. In fact, they're two very different people. Do they have some of the same ideals or lack thereof? Yeah, absolutely. Are they both nuts? Yeah. But if I were to come up with this list about the Killing Joke Joker or come up with it about the Scott Snyder Joker, it would be a very different list. And that's the first problem I have with any of these. The same goes for movie Jokers or even the Frank Miller Joker. They're all different, just like Batman versions. So to start out with just the Joker is one of the scariest villains, sure, yeah, absolutely. But to go right into this list with that in mind, I think it's important to note that I really think they should be pointing out what version of the character they're talking about, because it makes actually analyzing any of these lists harder. Same with taking them seriously. So let's just assume that we're talking vanilla, modern day Scott Snyder and Tom King Joker, because there's no other assumption we can really go under. So the first one that they have on this list is Kingpin, that he would team up with the Kingpin. I want to start out by saying I don't think Joker is a team player at all. He really just uses people for his schemes. He is not interested in fulfilling anyone else's. We see this whenever anyone tries to team up with him in comics or animated movies. You can even think of Black Mask and Under the Red Hood. It's like Joker is not interested in playing ball with any of these people in most interpretations of the character. He's really interested in his scheme, what he's trying to do, and generally playing jokes on Batman or Gotham. Jokes that leave people killed, but jokes nonetheless. So with Kingpin, I mostly agree with them if we're talking vanilla Joker. They believe that basically Kingpin would fund the Joker, and he would be able to just kind of work on his own. The thing that I don't agree with, though, is where it's talking about Joker and Kingpin would gravitate towards each other. Fisk would put Joker's talents and proclivities to good use, and Joker would love every second of it. This whole thing. I mean, yes, Joker loves it in the moment when he's doing something, but if Joker ever felt used by someone, which is Kingpin's main thing, just like the Joker, he would not play ball with that. And I think that's important to remember. Joker's not interested in being the middleman. He's not interested in being someone's lackey. And Kingpin's whole thing is having lackeys. He's not interested in a partner. As far as Bullseye's one that I have to admit to you, I'm more actually versed in the live action versions of Bullseye than I am in the comic book ones, but I don't really know if this argument makes sense. Too much crazy in one place for the pairing to come close to functioning at all. I mean, sure, but Harley Quinn, I mean, is she not crazy? And it works. It's a very, very quick argument, but it doesn't really go anywhere like a lot of these. And that's why I'm kind of unsure on this one with Bullseye. Maybe, but I don't know. They're kind of a bit of a stretch. Looking at Sabretooth, they say Wolverine is the best he is at what he does. That's funny. I like the references. And I like a lot of what CBR has put out in terms of news. I think they cover comic news well. It's just a lot of these opinion pieces I'm kind of up in the air on. But he talks about how Joker loves to kill people, and he enjoys bringing death and killing people. Sure, most villains seem to have that in common, especially in comic books. He is powerful enough to kill almost anyone. I don't know about that. I mean, put him up against Thanos, I don't think he'd do very well. Put him up against Darkseid, I don't think he'd do very well. He's the perfect partner in crime for the Joker, as they could wreak havoc. I think essentially this would work, but it's less of a team up. I really do believe that a modern Joker would use Sabretooth to sort of further the joke or the plan along. He would use Sabretooth as his lackey, a member of his crew, to get his plan done. And as soon as Sabretooth stood in the way of that plan, or if he ever did, dude would be dead. Like, there's just no question. Joker is not afraid to put people down that get in his way. So all of these alliances, including Sabretooth, any of them that would work, I really don't see them being anything other than temporary. As far as hating the Red Skull, this is sort of true, but the idea that it's doubtful that he would be good with a Nazi or the worldview they espouse, I don't think Joker cares. Joker's not political, really. He doesn't care about politics. He doesn't care about who he's working with as far as if they're a Nazi or a member of the, I don't know, the Socialist Party or whatever. He doesn't care about that. He cares about how he can use people, how he can get to the end of the road and actually get his joke out there, his plan, and finish it and enact it in a perfect way. He cares about different things depending on the continuity, like breaking Batman, in the more recent Tom King, Scott Snyder version of the Joker that we've been talking about. He really cares about exposing Batman's weaknesses to make him better. Sort of like the whole purpose behind Death of the Family was sort of to be like, hey, the Bat family is making you weaker as a person. These are the sort of plans that he cares about. And yes, he is chaotic. He cares about just being evil. So to be like, he wouldn't like this ideology, I don't think he'd really look very closely at it. Now, like anything, this could vary based on the writer, sure, but I don't know. Teaming up with the Juggernaut, again. So here's the thing with the Juggernaut and Sabretooth. I'm not saying they're complete morons. They're not totally stupid. But the reason that both of those team-ups really work is because they are not intellectual powerhouses. They're not somebody who poses any sort of threat to the Joker or his plans. Essentially, Joker could use the brute strength of either of those characters and go from there. That's really it. These are all people that Joker could use. As far as hating the Taskmaster, their whole argument here is that it would drive Joker nuts because he has the ability to use any sort of fighting style, and that he's an egomaniac who has too much confidence. I think that, well, one, Joker doesn't get visibly annoyed that often. Not much gets to the guy. Really, the only thing that gets to Joker in a lot of these continuities is Batman. Batman is the unattainable for Joker. Batman is the incorruptible. And that's really frustrating to a character like the Joker, who sort of embodies a lot of those traits. And at the same time, it's sort of a yin to the yang. You might disagree with some of the ways that the Dark Knight trilogy depicted some of these characters, but one of the best lines in it is when Batman asks Joker, and these are in the Nolanverse versions of the characters, when he asks him, why do you want to kill me? The Joker says, I don't want to kill you, you complete me. And that's sort of the essence of the character, what it's become in the last 20, 30 years. I think it's sort of become that ever since Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. And it's sort of this idea of there are two sides of the same coin. Yes, there's also the One Bad Day take from Alan Moore, which is very similar and really kind of personified actually in the modern day story of the Batman Who Laughs. Essentially, like, no, under certain conditions or with, maybe some help from the Joker himself, some gas, you could become the Joker, is essentially the idea behind that. But just in general, Batman is the incorruptible. He is the yin to Joker's yang, and in a lot of ways, he is sort of this ideal that Joker can't reach. I think that one of the best versions of that, too, is in the Batman Beyond Return of the Joker movie, which if you haven't seen, I really think you should see. And they sort of capture that essence of the character really well about the idea is Joker really wanted to make Batman laugh in some ways and sort of wanted to connect with that character, but he's just so twisted. So I don't know. I don't think a lot of these things that they're pointing to that Joker would care about, he'd really care about, but maybe they have a different understanding of this character than I do. It just seems like a little forced. As far as teaming up with Mystique, again, sure, she's not an idiot. Absolutely not. She's much smarter than Sabretooth or Juggernaut in most interpretations of those characters. And that's ignoring the, I'm the Juggernaut version from X3. But this is sort of one of those things where I think Joker would be able to use this character very easily. She can get in anywhere. She can pretend to be anyone. This is a power that Joker would definitely take advantage of. But again, if this got in his way, dead. Hating the Enchantress is an interesting one. At first, you might think that this was a match made in heaven. Enchantress is incredibly powerful, blah, blah, blah. Sure. But the whole thing that they go to here is that Joker would not want to attract the attention of an Asgardian god, Thor. Joker does not care. That's kind of the problem with this is sort of imposing a sanity or rationale on Joker that he doesn't possess. This idea that, like, Joker would be afraid of drawing Thor's attention. Joker's not afraid of drawing Superman's attention, arguably one of the most powerful characters in the universe he lives in. He's not afraid of anybody. And, at the end of the day, if somebody does kill the Joker, he wins in a lot of ways, especially Batman. But if Batman or even Superman killed the Joker just straight up, it proves Joker right. Even though a lot of us say, like, well, it would be easier if somebody would kill the Joker, and that's Jason Todd's whole argument, Joker doesn't care about drawing that attention to himself, because at the end of the day, if Superman shows up or Thor shows up and just murders Joker on live television, that's it. That's sort of one of his end games, is corrupting the heroes of the world that he's in. Teaming up with Norman Osborn, this has got to be the one I agree with the most on the list, but also the one that I think is the most unpredictable. Essentially, Norman Osborn is sort of the Joker of the Marvel Universe in a lot of ways. The Green Goblin is absolutely certifiably insane, very powerful, smart, rich. Yes, he has unlimited resources to work with. I think they would get along quite well in the short term. I think that at a certain point, though, these two characters are much too ambitious for each other. That's why, again, I say the short term. Norman Osborn has more of an end game than Joker a lot of the times, as far as he has an ultimate goal he wants to reach other than just something chaotic and evil. And so because of that, if Joker felt that Norman Osborn was getting in the way of the joke or his plan, essentially, this alliance would be over before it started. So, like any of these, very short-lived, but it could work. Hating Dr. Doom is interesting. Essentially, it's everything the Joker despises rolled into one person. That is sort of true. He is very controlling. He is he controls Latveria. He obviously, needs to be in charge. Dr. Doom, especially the classic villain version of this character, not quite as much looking at the modern infamous Iron Man one. But the thing with Dr. Doom, and one of the reasons I think he would hate him, or maybe play off him so well and love him, is in some ways Doctor Doom and Batman are very similar, actually. Yes, they're on completely opposite sides of the moral equation, but Doctor Doom is another one of those stoic, staunch, will not laugh, will not give in and be entertained characters who really needs order. Like the article points out, he needs order. He does not thrive on chaos, whereas the Joker does. And Doom wants control. Now, Joker also wants control, but he wants control in the way of causing chaos. It's one of the key contradictions about the character that makes him so interesting. The idea of chasing cars, or of enacting these insane plans like in Death of the Family, where he's able to capture pretty much the entire Bat family, but at the same time, at the end of it, what would he actually do if he was able to enact this whole plan? It's something chaotic, whereas Doom would want something ordered. So that's the end of the article. You'll have to let me know what you think about this one. I'm much more on the side of this article than I was the last one. I think you can make a lot of compelling arguments for any of these either way. Let me know what you think in the comments down below about any of these, and I hope you have a great day. Let me know if there's anything else you'd want to see on the channel, or if you have any other ideas for more content. And I'll see you in the next one. Love all of you. Approaching 3K. You're amazing.